I'd like to take a few minutes to take some attention from you guys. Anybody in the back getting some food, please come sit at the tables so we can start the event. We're just a tad bit late, but that can be covered up, right? So, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody who could make it today. ਤਹਿ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸ਼ੁਕਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਇੰਨੀ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਹਾਜ਼ਰੀ ਭਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ। ਇਹ ਜੋ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਅੱਜ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਆ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਸਦਕਾ, ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬਦੌਲਤ ਅਤੇ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ। ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਅਗਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਜ਼ਿਹਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਿਠਾ ਲਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਕੋਈ ਇੱਕ ਸ਼ਖਸ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦਾ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਆਪਣੀ ਹੋਂਦ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਅਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਭਵਿੱਖ ਨੂੰ ਮੱਦੇਨਜ਼ਰ ਰੱਖਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਆਪ ਹੀ ਸਿਰਜਦੀ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਸਮਝਾਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਭਵਿੱਖ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਚੰਗੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਮੋੜ ਦੇ ਸਕਾਂਗੇ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਸਮਝਦਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹਾਂਗੇ। So, first of all, I'd like to start off by thanking everybody who has come here from distances far and near. We have people from right here in Prince William County, Fairfax County, Loudoun County, DC, Maryland, as far as California, if you don't believe that. So this event is very special to not only the Punjabi community, the Sikh community, but also any community that is careful and is cautious about their future. Because if we don't act today, we will not be able to act tomorrow. If we are resilient today, then we have the valor to be confident tomorrow. There's a very famous quote that I'd like to bring up from Benjamin Franklin. He said, "You tell me and I learn." So you tell me and I learn. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਸਿੱਖਦਾ ਹਾਂ। You involve me and I get the knowledge. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੋਰੋਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਸਮਝਾਂਗਾ। ਲੇਕਿਨ the most important thing, ਨਾਲ ਤੋਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ, better than involving somebody, if you make me lead, I will be your own future. That is from Benjamin Franklin, Independence Hall Library, if you don't believe. And that is something that I believe that every community member today, that's sitting here or not sitting here, needs to focus on. If we all become the leaders of tomorrow, then there is nobody that we can hold non-accountable of for any mistakes we make. Because in every mistake that we've made, or that we shall make, because we're humans, we will, always will, but because we hold ourselves accountable, those mistakes will be forgotten and forgiven, because we will know they aren't made on purpose. They're made out of human nature. And the only way we can veer those mistakes to a minimum, is only by the knowledge, the acknowledgement, the information that we provide ourselves through the day and age that we're here in today. And that's exactly why we have three very excellent gentlemen here today that are trying their best to represent us, that are going to try their best at representing us in the very few marginalized ways that we have already been put back. Whether it's our county, whether it's our state, our country, kisi bhi jagah te tusi le lo, we have been marginalized. And I'm not talking about the Sikh community or the Punjabi community. I'm talking about the intellect in any community. The intellect and the intelligence of any community has been marginalized by people who are in greed of money and power. And now is our time to wake up and change that. Because if we don't wake up and change that, nobody's going to change that for our grandchildren. And guess what? Just like today, we reminisce and we talk about our grandfathers and our forefathers, and we say, man, I wish George Washington had done this. Man, I wish Guru Nanak Sahib had done this. Just the way we wish that those people had done certain things just because we find life hard. If we can come together today and think about the future and make our actions of that sort, then I guarantee you guys that our next generation will not think like that about us. That is what's needed. And if we can accomplish that by events like this, then I think we will achieve what it is to be a human, what it is to be a polis, which is a Latin word for a city. And the way We have to become real politicians from our own hearts. ਆਮ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ the word politician and politics is taken into a negative light. ਸਾਡੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ it's taken into a very negative light. ਪਰ 2 ਮਿੰਟ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਸੋਚੀਏ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ word politics ਆ ਜਾਂ politician ਆ ਇਹ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ? ਇਹ word polis ਹੈ, P-O-L-I-S. It's a Latin word that just means the city. It's like city on a hill. From that concept. ਇੱਕ city ਨੂੰ, ਇੱਕ civilization ਨੂੰ, ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਸਨੀਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਗ੍ਰਾਂ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਜਾਂ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਨੇਜ ਕਰਨਾ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸਹੀ ਸਹੂਲਤਾਂ ਪ੍ਰਦਾਨ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਇਸ ਵਰਡ ਦਾ ਮੀਨਿੰਗ ਹੈ। And it's a whole different story that our politicians of any country really have demolished the definition of that word for us. And that's why we think, oh, falana banda ji politician hai, bahut mada hai. No. Oh, politician hoon karke mada nahi hai. Nobody is bad because he's a politician or she is a politician. People are bad because of their own actions. We have 3 very fine politicians right over here. Very intelligent people. And they're not bad. So why do we say that every politician is bad? So the word politics, the word polis, we need to understand that. We need to empower ourselves. ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਕਤ ਉਹ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੁਝ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ ਤੇ ਇਸੇ ਸਪਿਰਿਟ ਨੂੰ ਨਾਲ ਲੈਂਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਅਗਾਂ ਬਹੁਤਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਾ ਲੈਂਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹਾਂਗਾ the 2 MCs for tonight. That's going to be Sartaj Kaur and Manjot Kaur. Sartaj Kaur, my sister. Manjot Kaur, also like my sister. Sartaj Kaur goes to Northern Virginia Community College right down the street. Manjot Kaur is from Virginia Tech. They're both from Prince William County. And so that really engages us and puts us at the place where we're going to talk about, especially Ryan's going to talk about education. And they both go to school, so they'll be talking more about that. So without further ado, we're going to introduce our MCs for the night, Sartaj Kaur and Manjot Kaur.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Manjot Kaur, and I'm a junior. Okay. And I'm a junior at Virginia Tech doing accounting and religion as a double major. And this is.
I'm Sartaj Kaur. I'm a first year at Northern Virginia Community College, majoring in political sciences and health sciences, and I'm aiming to transfer to University of Virginia soon.
So now we would like to introduce a few members of the Sikh community to come up and say a few words.
My first speaker is Surinder Singh. He is a senior web specialist of Community Health System at Alterum Institute from Washington, D.C. He also serves as the youth coordinator at Sikh Foundation of Virginia. Surinder Singh.
ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ I would like to first of all thank you, as Mansaman said, that it's not easy for many of us, especially who spend half of the day at Gurdwara on every Sunday, and then leaving the family's priorities behind, coming here from far and near. But we really thank you for involving yourself to the event, and I really would like to thank the honorable guests for taking their time out and coming and recognizing the community and helping us in many different ways. I would like to start with basically from the time I grew up in a very tight, very remotely village in India, where we had a community like an extended family. In a small village, you had all the resources available within the village itself. You had a couple of doctors on one side, a couple of shops on one side, and all the people kind of got to do business with the same people over and over again and met with the same people. They became your more or less a family member. You had a lot of people to take care of yourself. And I remember growing up, I didn't just have one uncle, I had uncles all around me. So you step out and you are going to school, you know that, okay, all the eyes are watching you, that, hey, you stay on the path, go to school straight. You do not go around here and there. Businesses flourished because all the people worked with the same people. As I said, that a doctor in the village served all the community in the village. Similarly, a shopkeeper, there's 1 or 2, there's a vegetable vendor, and then you go on the other corner, there's a shoemaker sitting there, serving the same people in a tight community, which helped each other, took care of each other, and kind of grew from there. growing into that environment when you come to US, and I see that happening now after several years, that we have started coming together in different counties, started living together, started working with each other. Coming from that business-oriented county, most of the people have, I was actually going to share you a funny story that one of my friend uncle, I should say, because he's much older than me, he came here and he would go to store and he would just talk to people like, oh, you guys are doing this wrong. If you are doing this way, you will make more money. And somebody just, politely told him, you should mind your own business. So he literally took it to his heart, and he went and bought a store out there and opened the store. He's like, oh, he said, mind your own business. I should mind my own business. So we come from that, business-oriented community where people want to get out and they just don't want to get into that rut of 9 to 5. They want to become their own masters, and they have the resources, they have the abilities to run the successful businesses. And that's why you see a lot of stores out there, a lot of gas stations, and many, many different places being run by Punjabi community, and very successfully, all the restaurants and different things I can think of. And when it comes to that kind of community, the thriving community, they can do a lot of good things. And with all the resources we have come together, we have started building our gurdwaras, which became our kind of center of the whole community. The whole family comes there every Sunday. You get to meet each other, you get some updates, you share some thoughts, you do a lot of different things with them. Along with the children, our next generation, where we get to give them all the good values we have carried around with us, we get to share with them. And this is the place where I have spent most of my past 10 years at the Gurdwara as a youth coordinator for past couple of years at Sikh Foundation of Virginia, that you get to work with the next generation. You're not just passing on your religious values to them, you're not just passing on to the cultural values to them. We, with the advanced mind, we always try to tell them how you can fit all those centuries-old things to the most advanced, the place you're living in. How do you fit all those values in the new system? So we try to integrate them into the community by having their thought process like, okay, you need to be honest, and you need to work with this community, you need to respect all the people equally, you need to respect all the genders equally, you need to go out there, according to our Guru's teaching, you need to work hard, earn your own bread, and then you have to eventually go and share with other people. And then this is how we kind of give them small pieces, small nuggets at a time to chew, and then they become a very secure part of our upcoming communities, our upcoming generations. And that has helped us seeing around us that at least when Mansamran arranged this camp at the Gurdwara recently, I was amazed by the next generation who's coming up. They're far better than us because they have all the good technologies, good things coming in their mind from their schools, and also the good value system they're receiving from their local Gurdwaras and the local schools at the Gurdwaras. And these two powerful things coming together, building them as a wonderful citizen, as a very responsible citizen who can take on the next challenge which is coming to this country ever again. The sense of community as an extended family, the sense of earning your own bread honestly, the sense of earning your bread and sharing with other people, the sense of taking that responsibility of others upon you is kind of ingrained in us. It's always been with us with the teachings of our gurus, at the same time with the value system we grew in, and it all came with us. So we have very successfully shown through the country that Sikhs have that, the Sikh community in general and Punjabi community have that thrill that they can eventually make anything happen. The challenges we receive, we have seen throughout the country as well. The mistaken identity, we have always been targeted for different reasons, especially after 9/11. And of course the bullying at school, which we want to really address, and we have been addressing. But I would like to thank the Prince William counties, all the officials, that we have been very safe here. At least in this county, we haven't had any kind of incident so far, thank God. And we really, really appreciate from the bottom of our heart that through your training system or through your, the system you have in the county, at least the things have been completely different for us here. It's a very good thing for us that we are sitting here in this county today, and we are very thankful to all the people who have kept us safe in this county and our children in the school very safe. But going forward, we also would like to see some things coming to the county which can help not only the Sikh and Punjabi community, but communities in general. Being working in the health industry for almost 2.5 years now in the health and IT, the next $1 trillion industry is coming to the town. Health IT and the technology, the use of technology in the education. If we can bring a cake of that whole $1 trillion industry to the county, one thing I have learned recently that the more time we spend in commute, going to all these far places for our jobs, the less time we're able to spend with our community. So if we can replace that commute word with the community time, that can really, really help the communities come closer and spend time with the families, also spend time in the community doing a lot of good things. So the industries are out there. It's a matter of putting a plan together where you can offer some incentive for people to come and open your new businesses here. You can offer some kind of mentorship programs where you have more like in the schools and colleges where you have more mentorship programs for the young generation coming forward who can learn these technologies very quickly. I was able to learn this web development by myself online for about a year and a half. I used to be a travel agent a few years ago, and then the good fortune that one friend mentored me and put me to this trade, and eventually that helped me leading the way to the next one. We can do similar things for our upcoming generations. We can always train them because all these pieces I'm talking about, the education industry and the health IT, have a very segmented work available, which you can use. Like you don't really have to have the entire piece together to work on it. You can just pass on some of the small pieces to work on, and our generation can learn those small pieces very, very quickly within like month of, probably in a 6 months time, and they can learn and they can get to work. We can provide these kind of services through our churches, through our gurdwaras, through our temples in this area, and we can have that kind of trail going on in Prince William County, where you wouldn't really have to leave your county and go to different places to work. You can, all the economy, eventually all that things, if you look at from the the business model of this entire thing, just like we had in the village, I'm coming back to the same old thing, the concept that the money didn't leave the village. The money always kind of, came from one home, went to another home, came from other home, back to one first home. So it's kind of always there. It's all flourishing. Everybody's helping each other. Everybody had vested interest with each other, so they always looked after each other. So the community becomes a very kind of an extended family altogether for all the people. At the same time, I would like to request or basically propose the need of charter schools in this place, in this area, where we can have different sort of options going on for the people who are not able to attend regular schools or colleges, where we can provide some of the short-term trainings that can put people to work in very different ways. In many different areas we have available. I'll be happy to even talk to you later about the options we are creating at our work these days. How these things are really picking up. Short-term trainings such as the testings and other things that we do in IT have very good impact. A lot of good jobs available out there, highly paying jobs, and it doesn't take much to run those things. So we can provide all that through the different channels in the county and help the county, basically help the citizens of this county to really have that ability to cash in, to work, and to get to the work basically which can return a lot of good things back to the family. Lastly, I would like to really convey another thing here, that Punjabi community, Sikh community have always been an integral part of wherever they have lived. This is not the only country we live outside of India. So wherever we have lived, we have been a very integral part of the county, taking from the county, or not just the county, but the country, taking from the country, but giving back a lot out of it. All the generations we have seen around us, that all the successful people, they have not only just the financial success, you get to see that how they have really integrated themselves within the industries around them, and how they have helped the people around them. One of the name comes to my mind is Narendra Kampani, who is known as grandpa of IT because of his fiber optics search. And then many different medical field successful doctors who have given a lot back to the country. Many people in the business side where you have a lot of successful businesses providing jobs, providing economy for the areas they live, and they've done wonderful things around the thing. So we need to work together. We need to have these all resources available. You can provide some of the resources to us so we can try more, and at the same time we have all the resources for trainings, for teaching, making our citizens more successful and responsible. And of course, the part of that feeling of we are for the community, we are for the family, this is our extended family, we want to live. So that's the kind of idea we are sharing here today, that if we work all together, we can make wonders. And this county can become a role model for many other counties around us, that this is how it is done in a small village kind of example I started with, and it can grow to a big town right from there. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Surinder Singh. Next we have Mr. Krishna Sharma, who's an active member of the Nepali community in Northern Virginia. He's also worked as a journalist in the Washington Post. So can we please have Mr. Krishna Sharma up?
Thanks a lot. Northern Virginia Punjabi community members. Before that, I want to also address the people, our future leaders who are in the dais here. Mr. Rick Smith, who is fighting for an election in the Prince William County Board as a chairman, and Mr. Ryan Swire. He is going to be our kids' main guy to be consulted, who will be working the plannings, schedules, and the educational sectors, and Mr. Dan, who is going to be representing us in the state of Virginia. Am I right? And ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am humbled to be here because I do not belong here in this county. I am from Springfield, Virginia. That's where I met Mr. Avtar Singh. Where is he? Please stand up. He's the man of the show here. He's right behind here, but in front of you. So he has done such a great work, working in the community, for the community, and raising his kids. I met him for the first time in my life 9 years ago in Springfield, and he has come out to be a great neighbor, a member of the community who can work to bring about changes in the society. And that's what he is doing, first and foremost by producing a son who is so brilliant, who is so committed to work for the society. And the first example is here that I have seen. And his daughter, she will be working in her community and politics and health sectors in the days to come, and we will see it. And also here, before that, I would also like to tell you that Northern Virginia is, I think it's many times it's a told story in the newspapers by people from various backgrounds. But I would also like to reiterate the fact that this Northern Virginia is a very immigration-friendly region in the whole world, I would say. Because of that assimilation, it has been able to bring in people from various countries. It has got the greatest diversity, I would say. If you go out from your household, you will see people from various regions in the world speaking very many languages, and going to schools. The kids go to school and they speak so many languages, and on the cafeteria we see many different types of flags. In one school where my daughter goes, there are as many as 100 flags. Can you imagine? It is so diversified place. And it is possible because of its leaders. its leaders have made this place in such a way, they have developed plans in such a way, and that it's so welcoming, and its schools are so great that everybody wants to come here. Why not any other places but Northern Virginia? It's because its plans are far-sighted. This is the place where everyone wants to grow their kid. That's why I'm here too, with my 3 little kids. She's there, my daughter is right there in the camera, and my son is right there. Out of many, many states, I'm here. Why? Because I want to raise my kids in a very peaceful, industrious, and diversified place. And to maintain these 3 things, a diversified place where education is regarded highly, and where assimilation or cohesive environment is given a due importance, it's a great challenge. And this challenge has been made by this region. And this region has maintained so, and will continue to maintain with the leaders like we are seeing right here. I could not talk to Mr. Rick Smith because he was not here, but I could talk to Dan and Mr. Sawyer. And I'm very proud of the Prince William County that they are great people. They have vision. Why they are running for their respective position is because they have seen the challenges, they have seen the weaknesses of the present educational system, and they are going to address that. That's why I think that we have reason to vote for them. Although I will not be voting personally because I belong to a different county, I would strongly recommend you all and your families and your relatives and friends to please campaign for them, because they are the ones who are going to make this place more cohesive and more educational friendly for all of us. And my previous speaker, I forget your name, you talked about the charter school system, which is, I would put my emphasis in there too, because charter schools provide what the regular schools have been lacking so far. And at the same time, the next thing is, there is a kind of undercurrent going on about racism, about kind of discrimination, things that we in a civilized world don't speak. We speak in a very polished language and in a good term, but under inside our mind, some other things go too. They move too. And in Northern Virginia, that is not happening. That does not happen. And why it does not happen? Because it is a diversified place. A lot of people work together, and it has accepted the immigration community, immigrants, so well that everybody feels that it is his or her home. And nobody wants to destroy the home. Does anyone want to destroy? No. So, a couple of days ago, I was going to work in Washington, D.C., and while commuting, I had put my radio on, and on NPR, I could listen to the speakers talking about immigration, what immigration does, how immigration impacts the society. There's a general feeling that the new immigrants come with mouth, and then they come to take away the jobs. But there the speakers were saying, no, that's not the fact. Immigration happens to grow the township into cities. And that's exactly what is happening in Northern Virginia. We have seen everything growing up, from industries to households to educational levels, the production of leaders worldwide. It's happening because immigrants come not only with mouth or to take the jobs, but just opposite, to produce things so that they could feed more mouths, and to create more jobs so that the jobs are not taken away, rather more jobs are created. And that's exactly what is happening, because if you can see the impact of the 2009 financial crisis, when Detroit, the car city, was struggling, Northern Virginia did not see that. The unemployment rate was always in its level or even lower. I didn't hear people saying that there is no job. People were not unemployed, they were employed. And that was possible because this region is immigrant friendly. That's why this is possible. So saying all this, I would not want to take more of your time, and I would like to thank you, the organizers, and thank you everyone for listening to me. Have a nice day.
Up next, we have Ian Reed. He is the president of Political Science Interest Group at Northern Virginia Community College. Ian Reed.
As president of the Political Science Interest Group. This has only been formed for about 3 weeks now, and it's my first time. So, my name is Ian Reed, and obviously I'm the president of Political Science Interest Group, and I'm a political science major and a political junkie, so it's awesome to be able to speak here. I plan on going to GMU after I graduate from Northern Virginia Community College, and I'm going to be majoring in U.S. government and economics. And it's truly a passion of mine and a dream of mine to pursue politics and eventually be congressman if I can make it that far. And some of my thank you. An issue that I'm very passionate about is income inequality and addressing the diversity of our nation and equal opportunity. And that's why I'm majoring in U.S. government and economics, because I want to be able to have an intelligent say in that argument and get something done about that. And some eloquent points were being made by the other speakers about getting people involved, especially at the local level, and making sure we go out and vote. And because it seems like the people who are the most intelligent and the most aware of our government and the way it works sometimes feel the most apathetic and feel like they can't make a big change, and that's sad to me. And one of my visions for the Political Science Interest Group is to raise awareness, especially with people my age and on college campuses who I know, a lot of which aren't even registered to vote, and even those that are don't come out and vote for local elections where they do not realize that it has a major impact on their life. It's not just the federal election that matters. The president of the nation is a huge deal, but what directly affects your life is local elections, and that's why it's an honor to be able to speak here. We're doing a lot on campus to raise awareness and get people registered and speak about the candidates that are running, and it's truly an honor to be able to speak with you all. And this is great, seeing so many people here taking time out of their Sunday to listen to the candidates speak and to talk to each other about the issues. And that's all I have, really. But thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all.
Community College. Next, we have Manjeet Singh Taneja, who's a Chief Policy Officer in the IT Department at the U.S. Government Publishing House. So can we please have Manjeet Singh Taneja up?
I want to make two confessions. One, I was not sure if I will be speaking over here. I was just informed about 12:30, 1 o'clock that I will be speaking over here. I said, sure. And fortunately, I had my laptop with me, so I was heading back from Gurdwara to my home, and this red light had some traffic. So I just took my car on the right side and opened up my computer, and I didn't pay any attention what I was clicking. So I put some words together, and I also want to say to this young man from Northern Virginia Community College, I think I started teaching there before you were born, you know. So I don't need to go back how long that was, you know, okay? Anyhow, so I have few words, and welcome to our Gurdwara community over here, you know, because, you know, I honestly did not know where we are meeting. So I ended up going to Manassas Gurdwara, and I see there was some other program going on, you know. So, well, fortunately, having the technology I was very lucky to be here within few minutes, so finally I am here. So welcome to our Gurdwara, Ryan Sawyer, Don Shaw, and Rick Smith. Your presence in itself speaks a lot about your interest and desire to know us, the Sikh community. You know, I can see that you are trying to amalgamate yourself, and naturally, we seek help over there too. We see this union can be beneficial for all of us. Now, Sikhs are not new to USA. It's estimated that about 4,000 to 500 Asians migrated to United States back in 1800, late 1800s and early 1900s, and good many of them were Sikhs. Sikhs, as you know, in India are only 1.2% in population. However, they contribute close to 33% when it comes to defending India, paying taxes in India, helping the less fortunate ones, offering hundreds of thousands of free educational scholarships to the needy in India. And as you can see over here, the Sikhs of USA are carrying the same torch, the same tradition over here. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but if you take this close to 1 million of Sikh community in United States, which is roughly 1/3%, I believe they are contributing in various ways, in much more percentages than their population defines. You will find Sikh entrepreneurs, engineers, doctors, politicians. If I tell you that our dear Nikki Haley, I'm sure you all know Nikki Haley, but I'm not sure if you know that Nikki Haley is a Sikh. Yes. Nikki Haley is a daughter of a Sikh gentleman. And you heard from Surinder Ji about Dr. Kapani, who is father of fiber optics. And if I also tell you that one of you three gentlemen who may have a term life insurance, you may have bought it from Select Quote. And the guy who owns the Select Quote is Charan Singh. So you can see that Sikhs have made a lot of progress over here. In fact, I'm sure one of you are using MasterCard over here. And the president of MasterCard is Ajay Banga, a Sikh gentleman. So you can see how far we have come. But there's a long road ahead of us. And I know together we can travel that road, hold our hands, and help each other. Well, by the way, you may not be aware of this, but Pritinder Singh, which is also known as Preet Bhamra, he is the U.S. Attorney for South District of New York, and he was very instrumental in bringing many things in Wall Street down in the last couple of years. So you can see in all aspects of life. In fact, we also had a Sikh congressman back in 50s, I believe, from California. His name was Dalip Singh Son. I'm very sorry that my speech is not ordered as it should be, because it was put together on a red light, you know. So this does show the drive Sikhs have and the inroads we are starting to make. Sikhs drive this power from their religion. Religion means a lot to us, and you heard a lot about that from Surinder Ji also. Sikhism, which in itself has a rich history and a compelling message of generosity, honor, equality, diversity, and social justice. Okay? But we feel over here we all have a lot to do. And we have many Sikh organizations who are doing this noble work in the area of promoting Sikh education in US schools, working with congressmen, congresswomen like yourself, and senators, and other national and local politicians, administrators, and business people to help Sikhs deal with challenges and identify the dress code issues Sikhs are facing in schools, in public, and in workplace. But when it comes to this particular county, we are counting on you. And we are here to give you full support, though I myself do not live in Prince William County. But I'm looking at this as an opportunity to meet with you guys, because what we speak with you, we can carry that forward to other counties also. Because at the end of the day, we are all one community, working together, holding hand, improving ourselves to become better people and improving our community. With that note, I wish you all the best, and we are here to provide you whatever support you desire. Thank you very much. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Our next speaker is Jacqueline Smith. She's a local lawyer and a candidate for a clerk of the circuit court. So, Jacqueline Smith.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I was glad to be invited, and I'm very honored to be able to address you all today. And also, I thank my brothers over here for sharing the stage for a minute. My name is Jacqueline Smith, and I'm running for Clerk of the Circuit Court for Prince William County, Manassas, and Manassas Park. Clerk of the Court isn't an office that we may think about every day, but it is an office whose services we all require at some point in our lives. Whether it be to obtain a marriage license, to complete a real estate transaction, or probate a will, we all require the services that this office provides, sometimes at the most stressful times of our lives. I decided to run for this office because as a local attorney, I became frustrated with the lack of service that this office offers to the community. Probably the worst offense I can think of is that the current clerk has instructed all of her employees that they're forbidden from answering the phone, which means if you have a simple question that you need answered, you're going to need to travel to Manassas between the hours of 9 o'clock and 4:30 to get the answer to your question. And the fact is that this is too onerous a burden for most people in our community. More than half of our community works outside of the county, meaning taking a trip into Manassas to get an answer to your question is going to require time off work, or sometimes won't be possible at all. What we have here is a clerk who's forgotten who she works for, which is our entire community, not just political cronies. As a member of the community, I was also outraged at some of the rhetoric coming out of the top of the clerk's office. Anti-woman rhetoric, anti-Sikh rhetoric, anti-Muslim rhetoric, anti-LGBT community rhetoric. This is unacceptable for our community. We have a variety of different groups in our community, and we have a clerk who's decided that she only will serve a select few. What we need in this community is a clerk of the court who remembers who she works for, which is every taxpayer in our community, not just her political constituents. We need to restore the dignity of this office and the honor of this office. And the way we do that is to get these career politicians out of the courthouse, bring a professional in who will remember who she works for. And I hope I can count on your support to be that person. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Next up, we have Dr. Amarjeet Singh, who's a diamond to our Sikh community. He has been amongst us for the past 20 years and has been leading us in a rebellion against tyranny. This is a valuable trait when it comes to building policies, as Simran had mentioned earlier. I request that he comes up and shares us some thoughts that he has.
Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. It's my honor and pleasure to be here, as I have been told that today there is a fundraiser for Mr. Ryan Sayers, Don Shaw, and Rick Smith. But the way I look at the participants, it looks like that it's not the Prince William County from which we have representatives here. It's all over metro area, and I have come from New York day before yesterday, and due to Mr. Avtar Singh Kalom and Mansimran Singh Kalom's efforts, as they have put this beautiful function, I thought of coming here. Before me, brief description about that how Sikhs came into this country almost towards the end of the 19th century. And today there are more than 700,000 Sikhs living in this country, almost in all the 50 states of United States of America. Very few people may be knowing that during the First World War, Dr. Bhagat Singh Thind from California was the one who fought, who won the Medal of Bravery, but he was denied citizenship due to the racial laws in this country. He took the case up to the US Supreme Court, and he proved that our race also comes to be Caucasian, if the law means that. But the judgment of the Supreme Court was that yes, based on medical evidence and all, you may be having Caucasian features, but the intent of the law was different when it was passed, so he was denied the citizenship. And after 1948, when the laws changed, Dalip Singh Sond, a doctor from Chajalwadi village of district Amritsar, was a congressman almost for 3 terms here. During his 3rd term, he had a stroke and then he had to discontinue. So that is our journey. Today in almost all the 50 states of America, we have our gurdwaras. And the good thing about the Sikh character, there are 30 million Sikhs on this planet, 5th largest religion in the world. But in spite of all that, what difficulties we are facing, particularly post 9/11, it may be bullying in the schools, it may be hate crimes against the Sikhs, and it may be that in this, though we served this country in the 20th century in the army, but even today, in spite of efforts of some good senators like Senator Chuck Schumer from New York and others, we have not been able to win this right that Sikhs may be able to, or Sikhs may be able to serve in US Defense Forces with 5 articles of faith. So I think there is a long, long journey, but as it is always said, all politics is local. And I am glad that though in other states we are always active in doing fundraisers for congressional candidates, for senators, and particularly in California, I remember that Barbara Boxer, who was having a tough time, and she always appreciates that Sikhs were the one who came up front, not only raised the money, but did an intense lobby for Barbara Boxer, and she won the election again. And I think the very basic of Sikhi, and that is where it's not just union with the God, the spiritual principles, Guru Granth Sahib as our scripture, but basic tenet of the Sikhi, when we describe a Sikh, and I remember that one time, one assistant professor of anthropology from University of Maine was doing research work on Sikhi, and I said that we are called saint soldiers. And she said, describe in one sentence, what does saint soldier mean? And I said that a Sikh should have the wisdom of a saint and the courage of a soldier. And when it comes to courage of a soldier, the very basic of Sikhi is to stand up for the righteous values. And one of the hymns of our 10th Guru says, Shubh karman te kabhu na taron, that I should never deviate from the path from the righteous path. And that is our history. For almost 5.5 centuries in that part of the world, South Asia, we fought against the Mughal tyranny, we fought against Afghan invaders, we fought against British colonials, and even today our struggle there in our land is for justice, truth, equal values, and being treated with honor and dignity. And I think Sikhs have a great potential, and particularly when towards this, in the last few days, I have seen that United Sikhs organization there in New York is working with the school district to have some of the holidays, as they have Jewish holidays, Christian holidays, Muslim holidays, recognized in the school districts which are related to the important Sikh events. Some special workshops like against bullying and others are being organized there. So I think we expect from our honored guests today here that we wish them that they should win the elections, they should be in the decision-making places, but at the same time, we'll expect that giving special consideration to the needs today, maybe in the schools. I think the Sikh students which go with their turbans or with their small turban, which we call patka, they face problems, there's no doubt about it. Similarly, the other hate crimes, even a couple of weeks ago, what happened in Chicago, and I remember that in the post 9/11 period, the first victim of the hate crime was one Balbir Singh Sodhi in Mesa, Arizona. And I flew from Washington, D.C. to attend his memorial service. Now the whole of the state was bending backward to honor everybody. There were more than 10,000 people in the final ceremony. But since then, that happened almost 5 days after 9/11, and it was for us the double tragedy. On one hand, as Americans, we were feeling the pain that on our mainland, over 3,000 innocent people have been butchered, murdered. But at the same time, we were looking for our safety, that all of a sudden, we are strangers in this land. So I think the first part begins with the schools, with the communities, the recognition should come. And certainly, we as Americans, we as the people, those who believe in standing for the values of righteousness, we have already contributed for more than 100 years towards the prosperity and development of this country. And there is great potential. And I think I always say the principles of Sikhism, the very basic values for which Sikh stands, run parallel to the value system which our founding fathers, they established. And I always, when it comes to President Kennedy, had always been my favorite president, to whom I always quote in my speeches, who said that never ask what nation is doing for us, always we should ask ourselves what we are doing for the nation. So I think I'll conclude with these words, and all the best, and I wish and pray that next time I'm here, we are honoring you, all of you, as the victorious candidates from your seat. Thank you very much.
So the reason we are here is to participate and portray our political efficacy and start to become an active part of our broader society. And events like these will only empower not only us, but our next generation to be catalysts to change.
Along with what Sardar just said, a great way to show how we as our community are together is a way to give money to where our mouths are. And so that means to give this fund and to energize and give more motives for our Sikh community members to be able to show face in local politics. And so now, just stick around everyone, we're going to be having dinner around 5:45, and now I'd like to pass it down to Simran.
First of all, I'd like to thank Sirtaj Kaur and Manjot Kaur. Let's have a round of applause for them. This may not be the first time they've been speaking on stage, but first time this type of event probably. So I'm very proud of both of them. I also would like to once again welcome anybody who came after the event started. We really welcome you from our hearts. ਤਹਿ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸ਼ੁਕਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸ਼ੁਕਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਪੈਰ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੁੱਟ ਕੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏ ਹੋ, ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਆ ਕੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੋ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਸਮਾਜ ਨੂੰ ਸੇਧ ਦੇਣ ਦੀਆਂ, ਇਹ ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਮੁੱਠ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ, ਉਦੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਇਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇਪਰੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀਆਂ। ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਮਾਜ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਧਾਰਨ ਦੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਵੇਖ ਲਈਏ, ਉਹ ਸਾਕਾਰ ਉਦੋਂ ਹੀ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਗਵਾਂਢੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਾਲ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਤੁਰਾਂਗੇ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਗਵਾਂਢੀਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾ ਮੁਹੱਲਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਦਾ, ਤੇ ਮੁਹੱਲੇ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾ ਪਿੰਡ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਦੇ, ਤੇ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾ ਦੇਸ਼ ਨਹੀਂ। ਸੋ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦੇਸ਼ ਹੈ ਸਾਡੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਜੋ ਵਸਨੀਕ ਹਾਂ ਜਿੱਥੋਂ ਦੇ, ਇਸ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਸਨੀਕ ਹਾਂ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਹੋਰ ਸਪੀਕਰਸ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ how many years we've contributed to this country, this great country. But I think now comes the time where we start participating in such a way that we aren't only reaping benefits and paying taxes. We're also paying in terms of our time and our daswand. Now, Ryan, Rick, and Don are a little unfamiliar with this concept. I'm going to tell you guys about this concept. It's called daswand. The word daswand comes from das, which means 10. So our gurus have instructed us to specifically set aside 10% of our incomes for community welfare, for community work. Now, whether you want to look at that as taxes or whether you want to look at that as charity is your own perspective. ਉਹ ਸਾਡਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਨਜ਼ਰੀਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਟੈਕਸ ਵੱਲ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ, ਜਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਚੈਰਿਟੀ ਵੱਲ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਦਸਵੰਧ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਬਣਦਾ ਹੈ। But I think one thing we've been lacking, and you guys should know this, and we all know this, one thing we've been lacking for the past 25 years in this community. The reason I say 25 is about 30 years or so is where the generation of my father and many of you guys, very respected people, families, the people who came here without their families struggled, to work 2-3 jobs at a time. And I mean, I think about this and I get very emotional because the things that you guys did, we can't do. ਜੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਵਡੇਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਅੱਜ ਤੋਂ 25-30 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਸਤਿਕਾਰਯੋਗ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਨੇ, ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹਾਂਗਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਛੱਡ ਆਏ, ਸਾਡਾ ਪਿੰਡ ਇੱਥੇ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਚਾਚੇ ਤਾਏ ਮਾਸੀਆਂ ਭੂਆ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਆਏ, ਪਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਭ। ਅਗਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਰੈਕਗਨਾਈਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਗਵਾ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ। ਐਂਡ ਗਵਾ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਕਾਫੀ ਹੱਦ ਤੱਕ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਵੀ ਹੈ। ਸਮਾਂ ਆ ਕਿ ਹਜੇ ਵੀ ਡੋਰ ਨੂੰ ਫੜ ਲਈਏ, ਪਤੰਗ ਵਾਪਸ ਆ ਜੂਗੀ। ਉਮੀਦ ਕਰਦਾ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਮੈਂ ਜਿਸ ਵੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਤੋਂ 25-30 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਿਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ, ਉਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਇਵੈਂਟਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੋਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਸਕਦੇ। We couldn't think about these things, right? And if today we're making it possible, I think ਕਿ ਸਾਡਾ ਦਸਵੰਧ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਮੂੰਹ ਨੇ। ਇੱਕ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਦੀ ਕਹਾਵਤ ਹੈ, put your money where your mouths are, ਜੋ ਮਨਜੋਤ ਕੌਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਕੇ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੂੰਹ ਨੇ, ਢਿੱਡ ਨੇ, ਮੈਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਸਪਸ਼ਟ ਰॉ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੂੰਹ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਢਿੱਡ ਇਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਤੇ ਭਰੇ ਹੋਏ ਆ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਸਾਡੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਅਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਭਵਿੱਖ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਫਿਲਹਾਲ ਭਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਆ, ਜਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਹੂੰਗਾ ਹਜੇ ਥੋੜ੍ਹਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਖਾਲੀ ਆ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਭਰਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਜੇ ਦਸਵੰਧ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਤੇ, ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਹੂੰਗਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਪੋਲਿਟਿਕਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾਈਏ, ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾਈਏ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਪੋਲਿਟਿਕਸ ਇਜ਼ ਅ ਵੇ ਟੂ ਰਨ ਯੂਰ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ। ਇਟ ਕਮਸ ਫਰਮ ਦ ਵਰਡ polis in Latin. So by putting your money into politics, you're not putting your money into somebody's pocket. You're putting your money out of your pocket back into your own. And that's the best way that we can do that. So without a further ado, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੁਣ ਲਿਆ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਖਾਸ ਬੁਲਾਇਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਸੁਣੀਏ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਜਾਣੀਏ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਕੀ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਨੇ। Let's talk to Ryan, first of all. Ryan Sawyers, in the middle, he is running for school board chairman, and which is a very big concept for us because a lot of our children, we grew up here, but our next generation is now growing up here. If while we were going to school, if we had people like Ryan and the school boards, I think our schools would have been a little better. So, but let's make that possible for our next generation. So without a further ado, I'd like to welcome Ryan to the stage.
Thank you all for having me. First of all, what a wonderful event, Mount Cimarron. Thank you for the invitation to attend and the opportunity to speak with everybody. I was going to open differently, but you decided to quote JFK, so now you've opened Pandora's box for me a little bit. I was raised in the Catholic Church. My parents both attended Catholic school, and I remember as a young child in 7th grade at Washington Middle School in Cumberland, Maryland, I found a book called 6 Seconds in Dallas. And unfortunately, that book was about the end of the Kennedy administration, but it got me fascinated with his administration, and I got to ask my parents, both Catholics, when they still remember this day, and they both still tear up a little bit when they tell me where they were when they found out Mr. Kennedy was assassinated. And but I had the opportunity this past summer, 2 summers ago, I guess now, I took my family to Boston, and my mom went with us, and we went to the JFK Library at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. And my favorite quote, which I promise ties into what I'm going to talk about, my favorite quote that I took from visiting that library was, and I'm going to paraphrase here, I might not get it exactly right, but it was when John Kennedy said that many people enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. And in reality, that's what public education is, right? Public education is about thought. We can learn the numbers, we can learn the ideas, but how to apply textbook smarts, book smarts, to street smarts, business smarts, people smarts, community smarts. How to tie those in together ultimately is what public education is all about. I have two small children. Well, they're not as small as I kind of wish they were, but it goes too fast. I have a 5th grade son, Brady. I have a 2nd grade daughter, Chelsea. Some of you, I passed out some literature to. You can see them on there. So I have 2 small children, and I have my beautiful wife, Jamie, who helps me when I'm out going around, and she runs the family, as we all know how it works. I'm a small business owner. I wasn't planning on being a college coach and college instructor for 15 years like I was. It was my first job out of college. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration, and it was the first thing that paid the bills for me. And I was a baseball player by nature, and then it kept paying the bills for a few more years, so I kept doing it. And eventually, during those times, I started a small sports marketing company that I did to make a little extra money on the side, and was fortunate enough to work very hard at it, to have, as we all need in our own businesses, a few breaks go my way, and now that's what I do full time, and that's how I provide for my family. I understand the ups and downs that it takes to run your own small businesses. I know many of you do, and that you are everything to that business. You are the CEO, you are the CFO, and you are also the janitor and the custodian, because no one else is going to empty your trash can. As this applies to schools, I think this leadership is important. I grew up in rural Appalachia. Don's going to come up later and say Appalachia. He's going to say it wrong, just so you know. It's actually pronounced Appalachia. Don's from Kentucky. They say it wrong in Kentucky. I grew up in a little town, actually not a lot far from here, a small town in Cumberland, Maryland, out in the mountains of western Maryland. And my father is a small town newspaper journalist. My mom is a social worker, and I'm the youngest of 3 boys. So, needless to say, there wasn't a lot left in the coffers by the time it came down to me. Those aren't 2 highly paid professions, as you might know. My parents will be celebrating their 48th wedding anniversary early next year, and I'm proud to have to be brought up by them. I'm proud of my brothers. But the reality is that growing up in a rural part of Maryland, like I did, where there is no money. Excuse me, I just kicked the microphone. Where there is no money, Allegheny County is about 72,000 people in the entire county. There's about 87,000 students in Prince William County. So it's quite a difference from where I grew up. But Cumberland, Maryland, I see as a very similar situation to Prince William County. I was able to get a good public education in Cumberland, Maryland, because of the economy that existed downstate, as we called it, in Cumberland, on the I-95 corridor between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, that was able to provide in the community way that has been spoken about so eloquently here, that you can look at taxes, you can look at tithing, you can look at giving any way that you choose to, but the reality is that money is there to help others, not just yourself, and it eventually comes back, like you said, back into your own pockets, which I appreciate. And I think public education fills that same role. Locally, we find problems here in Prince William County. We find that we have the largest classroom sizes in the Commonwealth of Virginia, yet we're the 14th wealthiest county in the country. We find that we have the lowest teacher pay of any county in Northern Virginia. What that boils down to is quite simply funding. And we do not have to increase taxes in Prince William County in order to get our school system more funding. If those of you who aren't familiar with it, who aren't Prince William County residents, Prince William County with the school board, which we cannot raise or lower taxes, we have no official vote on the tax rate. So no matter how much Mr. Smith, when he's elected, tries to blame it on me, I get no vote on that. We can only make the argument for our department, for the school department. Currently in Prince William County, we have what is called a revenue sharing agreement. And on its face, it may seem very fair. Prince William County Schools receives 57.23% of the real estate taxes that are brought in by the county every year. 57.23% of the real estate taxes, not any of the other taxes, just the real estate taxes. And that is the revenue that goes to the school. The only problem with that is, as other small business owners may realize, every year cannot say this year what my spending for a certain part of my business is going to be 5 years from now. I can't simply say I'm only going to allocate 10% of my money towards a certain part of my business for the next 5 years or 6 years. That needs to change as time goes by, because business changes, because needs change, because processes change, because costs change. We need to allocate money differently. Currently, that 57.23% is not negotiable. With the largest classroom sizes in the state, we're short 10 to 12 schools in this county, and with the lowest teacher pay of any Northern Virginia county, we're becoming a training ground for teachers. We're losing them to higher paying areas, and that itself is a self-fulfilling prophecy on more costs. It costs more to hire more, it costs more to recruit more. Keeping teachers is something that can save money as well. I advocate for the following. I'm advocating that our revenue sharing agreement currently, which is now a ceiling for our school district and the funding that we get from the county, I'm advocating that it become a floor. I'm advocating that we start with 57.23% as a jumping off point to say this is what the school gets. We all agree public education is important, but yet we need to expand our ideas on what our schools may need. The reality is every other government department in Prince William County gets to make the sales pitch for their funding. Everybody else gets to say, these are our problems, we may need a little more here or a little less here, here's how we see we can fix things. Every other government body gets to make that sales pitch, except for our school system. We don't get to make that argument. That's the process that I see we want to change. I think if we can change that process, then we can begin to talk about classroom sizes, adding on into schools where we need it, building new schools where we need it. Land is very expensive in Prince William County, if you haven't noticed yet, which I'm sure that you have, right? It is not cheap. We currently do not have a great, which is amazing to me in some ways, but we currently don't have a great understanding between the two governing boards in Prince William County. There's eight school board members who look over the school board, there's 8 supervisors who look over the rest of the county, and the part that blows my mind is that they don't work that well together when it comes to developing the entire county. At the end of the day, whether your tax money's in the school system or your tax money's with the Board of County Supervisors, it's still your money. And those boards should work together well in order to build the best programs that we can, the best schools that we can, in order to create an infrastructure that works for everybody and to make sure that we're not duplicating services that are unnecessary when schools ultimately are community centers. Schools, when you take the education out of what, when you look at just the physical structure of a school can be so much more than just where education takes place in a classroom. Just like a church, a temple, a mosque is so much more than just where you go to have service and to fill the soul. It is so much more than that. I know, because I've been to them in every church and every service I've ever been to. They want to feed you, they want to talk to you, they want to make sure that everybody's doing okay, and if you've lost your shoes or you're having hard times, they're there to help. It's so much more than for the soul, and schools are so much more than just education. It's a process of thought. And that's where I find our schools can do a much better job. I think the school board's job is to think big. Think, where do we want to go? Think inclusion. How much more of the community can we get involved in our school system? How much more can we do for the greater good of the county? And I think the school system plays a major, major role in that aspect. John Kennedy, who again, one of my favorites, and you've started this, so this is your fault. John Kennedy had a lot of good quotes, but I'm going to leave with this one because I like it. Because one thing I've gone out of my way to do during this campaign is not make a whole lot of promises, but talk about where I think the conversation should begin. Because I'm one man, and I make no qualms about the fact that I can't do it by myself. Even if I was arrogant enough, and I'm not, to think that my ideas were the best ones out there. That doesn't do me any good if I can't get the other board members to vote my way. I'm only one of 8 votes on a school board. But the reality is we've come a long way. We really have. But we still have a long way to go. And one of my favorite Kennedy quotes talks about the future and talks about that a person's role in government. And he said in his only inaugural address in 1961 that we may not get done what we want in the first 100 days of my time in office. We may not even get it done in the first 4 years in my first term in office. In fact, it may not even be done in the next 100 years. But ultimately, let us begin. Thank you very much for your time.
So next, without further ado, I'd like to welcome up is Rick Smith. He is running for County Chairman at Large.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Rick Smith, and I'm running for Chairman of the Board of Supervisors here in Prince William County. It is such an honor and privilege to be here with you this evening. I've gotten to know Mansimran over the last year, and he's shared so much about your community, and you're absolutely phenomenal. You're such an important part of who we are as a county, and I look forward to working with you very closely, not just over the next 4 years, but quite frankly for the next 40 years. So thank you all. A little bit about me. I'm a product of Prince William County. I moved here in 1978 when I was 9 years old. Proud graduate of Osborne Park. And not only was I raised here in Prince William County, but Prince William County has helped me raise 5 children who have been a part of our community, who have been a part of our school system. And the reason I'm running, I'm not doing this for myself. I don't look at the position of Chairman of the Board of County Supervisors as an audition for higher office or an opportunity to move on to something that some might consider bigger and better. This has been my home. This has been my community since I can remember. And I want to make sure that it is the best community that it can be for all of us. We face a number of very serious challenges in our community. And so I want to spend just a few minutes talking about the things that I think are most important and how I think we can address them. My top priority is our public education system. Ryan had a number of good points about this. He mentioned the fact that we do have the largest class sizes in the entire state of Virginia. He mentioned teacher pay. I believe that raising and educating our children and preparing them to be leaders of tomorrow is the single most important responsibility that we have as human beings. We have to get it right. We have to put the effort and make the investment in doing it. And quite frankly, right now in Prince William County, I'm sorry to say that's not happening to the extent that it needs to. When you think about the overcrowding in our classrooms, and I'll put some context to this. We have middle school classes, science classes, where they're using chemicals and Bunsen burners, where we have 38 children in a room with one teacher. That's dangerous, but it also takes away from the ability for our children to get the education they need. And here's the reality. In Prince William County, we have such a diverse population, and that diversity comes from different ethnic backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, but also different income levels. And there are plenty of students here in Prince William County whose families can afford to have one parent stay at home and give our children the individualized attention they need in terms of helping them with their schoolwork. But there are plenty that don't. There are plenty of families in our community where both parents work. Sometimes both parents work multiple jobs, or where there's only one parent. And these children, when they're put into a classroom where a teacher just simply can't give them the individualized attention that they need to be successful, that puts them behind. And in a county such as ours, that is as affluent as ours is, I think that's inexcusable. Now, I agree with Ryan 100%. He mentioned the specifics, kind of the dynamics of the revenue sharing agreement that currently exists between the school board and the Board of County Supervisors. I strongly support eliminating that agreement. That agreement has been in place for the last 17 years. And what it's really done, as Ryan described, is it's taken away the need for these two boards to work together. And I think it's absolutely critical that not only the Board of County Supervisors and the school board communicate together, But we also bring the community into these conversations. We bring the business community. We bring all the different folks that live and work and are part of education in Prince William County come together each year to decide how much we're going to invest in our children. So that's absolutely critical. The second thing that is very, very important to me is supporting our business community and bringing more high-paying jobs to Prince William County. I've spent the last 27 years as a banker and as an information technology director working in Washington, D.C. And I think I've calculated that had I been able to find a high-paying job here in Prince William County as opposed to having to go up and down 95 every single day, I've lost 450 days, not hours, days of my life, sitting in cars and trains and buses. That's time that I could have spent with my children. It's time I could have spent with my friends, and it's time I could have spent working and doing things in the community. We have at this point only 24% of the people who live in Prince William County actually work in Prince William County. And part of the reason for that is the fact that we don't have enough high-paying jobs. The average salary for jobs in Prince William County right now is $46,000. In Fairfax County, it's $82,000. But it isn't even just the jurisdictions north of us that are closer to Washington that are doing better than us. We've actually been passed by Stafford County and Fauquier County in terms of average salaries for jobs within our community. We have to do something about this. We have got to get a handle on bringing businesses into our community so that folks not only get off the roads and have opportunities to spend with their families, but they can do it right here and make competitive salaries. Now, the way that we're going to do that is, first of all, we are going to make local government more business friendly. I've spent so much time during the course of my campaign talking to business owners, workers, business leaders here in Prince William County and also outside of Prince William County. And the common theme that I hear time and time again is that our local government just is not effective, efficient, and friendly enough in working with the business community. It's things like inspections, permits, signage. Many of you are business owners and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I was talking to a CPA last week who was working with a gentleman opening a new restaurant. His restaurant was supposed to open 2 months ago, and he still hasn't had the inspection process completed. He's lost 2 months of revenue, and it's because our local government wasn't quick enough and didn't work efficiently enough to do the things that they needed to do for him to open his business when they said they would do it. So we absolutely positively have to improve that and work with our business community, bring folks in and work with them and find out how we can be better at working with you. We also have to address the infrastructure deficits. We talked about schools. Schools are the #1 reason that businesses choose to locate in a community. People talk about taxes, people talk about a lot of other things, but the bottom line is the education system is what drives business. They're looking for 2 things. They want to know that there is a ready-made, educated workforce in that community that they can hire from, but they also want to make sure that there's a benefit for the employees that they do have. Those employees are looking to make sure that their children are going to have access to education. So we have to improve education if we're going to deal with, or we're going to be successful at bringing in businesses. Bringing in more businesses is absolutely critical, not only for us from a salary perspective, but also from a taxation perspective. A point was brought up, I think Ryan, you mentioned that we don't have to raise taxes, we have to spend more money on schools. And I agree with that. But what we need to do isn't raise tax rates. We need to bring more businesses into the county so that they can help contribute to the investments that we make in our infrastructure. Right now, 78% of the real estate taxes that we bring in Prince William County comes from homeowners like you and me. Only 13% of it comes from business. We can't continue to try to improve our schools and our roads and the other areas of our community and just continue to do it on the backs of homeowners. We have to do a better job of bringing in new businesses who can help contribute to that so that we can make these investments without raising taxes. I believe we can do it if we make the right changes. And the last thing I want to address is I want to address diversity. When I moved here in 1978, I came from a very small coal mining town called Abingdon, Virginia. And I'll tell you that this was back in the late 70s. It was not a diverse community. And when I came to Northern Virginia, there was a little bit of culture shock. But I quickly found that regardless of race or ethnicity or religion or any of these things that on the surface makes us appear different, we all have the same hopes. We all have the same dreams. We all face the same challenges. And I learned very quickly how much that I could learn and benefit from working and playing and spending time with people who didn't come from the same background that I did. As a banker, when I was 20 years old, I was a branch manager for a very small international bank in Washington, D.C. And there were folks that worked in that bank that came from literally every region of the world. And it was another opportunity for me to, as an adult, really understand how important diversity is and how much it can help every one of us be better. When I look at what happened in our community back in 2008, and some of you were here then, and others I'm certainly have heard about the very harsh anti-immigrant resolution that my opponent championed. He did it very vocally. He made a national name for himself by pushing this resolution. In the process, he ruined our reputation as a welcoming community. It hurt our home values, it hurt our business development, and most importantly, it hurt real people. The only way that we are going to effectively address the challenges that we face and reach the great potential that I know that this community has is if we all do it together. And my promise is that I am going to work tirelessly with everyone, the business community, our citizens, elected officials here locally and across the state. Bring everyone to the table because, as Ryan mentioned, no one of us has all the solutions, but I know the solutions are there. And as long as we come together as a unified community and have these discussions, we'll find those solutions and we will make this community the great place we know it can be. Thank you all so much.
Emphasize before I call up Don that us listening here today, listening to their ideas, if our ideas resonate with what they say, then we've got what we've needed. And I think, I'm not sure about you guys, I think I like their ideas. Anybody else? I do, right? Do we? Yes, we do. See, we do. Okay, so without further ado, Don Shaw. He's running for House of Delegates. And I don't know if I mentioned, they're really good friends of mine, but even if they weren't, they'd still be here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Don Shaw, and I am thrilled to be here this evening. Thank you so much for putting on this event and having us here to share some of our stories. I'm running for the 13th House of Delegates District. Now, the previous two speakers, it was pretty easy. As long as you live in the county, you know that you can vote for Rick or you can vote for Ryan. But mine's a little more complicated. The 13th District is basically the I-66 US 29 corridor here in Prince William County. It goes from the Fauquier County line to the Fairfax County line, and then it turns south, and it picks up Manassas Park City as well. So that's the area that we're talking about when we're talking about the 13th District. I was at an event last night, and they had a nice little video there that they talked about, why is it that I vote? Why do I vote? What's my reason? And I want to turn that around, and I want to talk about why am I running? And it starts a long time ago, longer than I care to admit, when I was young, growing up in Appalachia. Not sure where that is that Ryan grew up. I've never heard of that place, Appalachia. And my father worked on the railroad. Now, Appalachia is an area that is probably the poorest area in the United States. If you take a list of the 10 poorest counties, at least 5 of them are in the region. When my dad was working on the railroad, he literally broke his back. And he spent years in a body cast, sitting in the bay window in the front of our house. And had it not been for the kindness of others, we would not have made it as a family. And when I was very young, that poignant moment caused me to dedicate my adult life to service to others. When I graduated from high school, I joined the military. And I served in the military for 20 years. I retired as a senior master sergeant from the Air Force, though the Army had some time of mine as well in there. And I spent 8 years in the federal government as a senior manager, giving back to my country. Because people had given to us when I was young. And I left the federal government and a fairly good job because I wanted to give back to my community here in Virginia. I have a master's degree in public administration, and I have my postgraduate studies are in public policy. So I've got a lot of background in government, and I know how government works. I've also seen how government doesn't work. Part of the story that Rick had talked about with diversity, the man I'm running against epitomizes the lack of diversity. He writes a bill, speaks out against anyone who doesn't look like or believe like he does. And for me, that's unacceptable. But I also want to talk about the fact that he doesn't show up to work. In the past 4 years, he has missed 723 votes. I'll let that sink in for a second. This is a part-time job, 30, 45 days a year. And he has missed 723 votes in the last 4 years. That's almost 200 votes a year. Sure. So some of those votes include attendance. Some of those votes are the most recent one that we're highlighting votes that he's missed on our Facebook page. And the one this week that we highlighted that he missed was a vote to open a Veterans Health Center here in Northern Virginia. Just didn't show up. He missed 52% of his committee meetings. Now the committees meet ahead of time. 52% of his committee meetings in 2015. Committees meet, they put the bills together, and they decide whether or not they're going to actually make it to the floor of the House for a full vote. Over half the time in 2015, he missed those meetings. Now, if you or I missed half of our work, we'd be fired. And that's what I'm proposing, is that we fire him. You don't hire somebody new at work just because a better candidate comes along. You fire the person who's in the position because they're not doing their job. And then you find somebody who's going to do the job. And that's my pledge to you, is I will show up to work. and I will show up for every single vote and every single committee meeting. Elected office, as I see it, is a sacred trust between those who cast the votes and those who receive them. And when an individual is elected to an office, whether it's dog catcher or president, or anything in between, that person has created a sacred bond between them and those who sent that person to wherever it is to make sure that they're doing the job to represent them. And that's what I'm here for. So with your help, and with the help of great candidates like Ryan and Rick, I know that we're going to do great things in November, and I look forward to speaking with everyone afterward. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Don. That was needed. So, one thing that I want to mention, how many of us here actually know that who our House of Delegates representative is? Let's actually raise our hands. Because I know kuch hai na jinnu pata hai. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 people out of a crowd of 200. Pretty sad, right? The Punjab MLA ਤੇ MP ਬਾਰੇ ਕਿਹਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ? ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ, right? ਇੱਥੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਫਿਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ? ਟੈਕਸ ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਇਸ ਦੇਸ਼ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੰਨਦੇ ਆ, ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਪੜਾਉਣੇ ਆ, ਵਾਪਸ ਜਾਣ ਬਾਰੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ, ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੋਚਿਆ. Right? Nobody's going back. We're here for good, whether some people like it or not. And they're the ones who like it. Their opponents are the ones who don't like it. And I'm saying that very openly because this is a public event, and we can. Don's opposition, Bob Marshall. Rick's opposition, Corey Stewart. I've met both of them. Corey Stewart a little more than I would like to. And both of them have quite honestly, have never been able to answer any questions that I've had. So, would you vote for somebody that has never been able to answer your question? Interaction here. No, right? So, who are we going to vote for? Don and Rick, right? So, yeah. So we're going to open it up to Q&A. We're also going to open up dinner. I know we're all hungry. Can't sit for too long. County chairman leads the Board of Supervisors. Sorry, is that right? Yeah, the Board of Supervisors in how to run the county. Specifically, Prince William County. ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ we've all ਆ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਹਰ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਫੇਅਰਫੈਕਸ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ that's where ਮੁੱਢਲੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਉੱਥੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ, right? So ਉਸ ਸਮੇਂ nobody could come out here. I still remember Dad tells me the story. In 91 when he bought a house in Centerville, right? People were like, "Kitte chal gaye ho?" That's how far Centerville was to where everybody used to live. You're so far away, we can't come meet you. That's how Centerville was. And I just see Gainesville too. I just saw them in Woodbridge in it. Warrenton in it. The mayor of Warrenton is, by the way, a Sikh. Satinder Singh. So we have really gone out. And I think now is the time that we can ask questions. So who wants to be the torchbearer? We have Mr. Khan.
Mr. Rex Smith, the next chairman of the Prince William County. I want you to please describe us as community with your opponent, Tory Stewart. He was not able to bring more prisoners to the Prince William County, and he was the one back in 2002 which drive out the immigrant from Prince William County. Compare with him and you, what you will do to welcome the more small business to Prince William, and what you will do in your power to improve more immigrant communication and welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you. That's I really appreciate the question. I think in terms of in terms of business, and some of this I mentioned briefly in my remarks. We have to, as a government, do a better job working with businesses. That means helping to create opportunities, but it also means the day-to-day how you interact with the community. In this case, the business sector. One of the things that I think gets really lost, and I think it is a very big contrast between me and Corey Stewart. He's been on the board for 12 years and has looked at running for higher office. For him, this is a political position. My background is in business. I have 27 years as a banker, most of that as in the information technology field. And I look at the Board of County Supervisors much like a board of directors of a large corporation. It's about running your business. And that's something that I think simply isn't happening the right way. I think we need to run our government more like a business. When you look at what local government is and what it's meant to be, it's an employer and it's a service provider. And there's a way to run business effectively. And there are ways, there are best practices that so many of you know that because of your experiences in business. That's one of the things that I want to bring to this position. Because I think the better our local government is run, with the mindset that we need to be better at providing services to business, I think that's one of the things that's absolutely critical to being successful in bringing more businesses in. Because we do have a reputation outside of Prince William County that we don't do this well. And it's important to remember that as a government, we're in competition. Just like any business competes with businesses in that same business sector, we're competing with Fairfax and Loudoun and Stafford and other jurisdictions to bring in new businesses, to bring in new residents. We're competing for dollars in Richmond and from Washington. We have to do a better job at competing. And that's something that I will certainly try to do. Now, the other part of this, and it speaks, I think, to a lot of different things, but certainly to diversity and working better with the community. This may be a part-time job, but it's something that I will focus on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One of the things that I hear constantly about my opponent is that he's just not engaged.
We can say his name.
Well, sure, okay, about Corey Stewart. He's not involved. What I hear from folks in the community, he doesn't show up to community events. He doesn't get involved and really go out and talk to the people. But then at the same time, from a government perspective, when I talk to Sharon Bulova, who is the chairperson of the Fairfax Board of County Supervisors, I had a meeting with her and I asked her, well, what's the relationship like between Fairfax County and Prince William County? How do our governments get along? How do you work with your counterpart, Corey Stewart? And her response to me was, well, I don't really talk to him. He's not on any of the boards or participates or reaches out to other governments. I think that's a huge mistake. I think that it's absolutely critical, and my commitment is that I will do everything I can to be in the community, to work with these other governments, because I do firmly believe that as a unified community, that's how we're going to get things done.
Connections here. So my name is Kamal Sachdeva and I live in Prince William County. But Rick, you talked about commute. I go to Fairfax County every day, 19 miles, I-95. My husband goes to Prince George's County every day, 40 miles. So commute, yes. The number of hours and days we use or waste, commute, yes. If we are able to get jobs in Prince William County, that'd be awesome. But not easy, we know that, right? Even if you're highly qualified. Ryan, you're running for the school board chairman. I'm a teacher, work in Fairfax County. I love my school, but again, I work in Fairfax County, right? And Don, you talked about military. Mine is a military family. So, a lot of connections here. Mankiran talked about, do the ideas resonate? Yes, sure they do. But he also talked about the word politician. unfortunately, it does create a negative image in us, in our mind, at least in my mind. So we're hoping by voting for you, we are able to get that image, the negative image out, and we are able to see you actually working with the community together. Thank you. And my question for Ryan is, since I'm a teacher, of course it has to be a question regarding education. All my years of teaching here, the major thing I've seen is lack of parental involvement. And we know for the kids to really rise and shine and do better, the parental involvement is really, really, really critical. And we also know half of the time parents cannot come to the meetings is because they're working 2 or 3 jobs. One parent and so much to do. Do you have any plans, any ideas to increase the parental involvement in school systems so that we can increase the achievement and close the achievement gap? Thank you.
You have to realize that I haven't found anyone to disagree that nothing supports education better than 2 parents waiting at home for their child to come home and support and even add to the education they just received in school. The reality is education doesn't stop when they leave your home, and it doesn't stop when they leave their school. Education and thought is an ongoing process all the time. And like I spoke earlier, it's about applying the knowledge that we receive into thought that not only helps yourself, helps your family, helps your community, those types of things. The reality is this, and this was a bit of an eye-opener. My wife was the vice president for my children's elementary school PTO. And I think the first meeting she sat in on, the principal made a request to the PTO for different things they were missing, light bulbs for the overhead projectors, those types of things that just simply wasn't in the budget. And her request was for $14,000, and the PTO had the money with much more to spare. And so they cut the principal the check for $14,000 to make sure that she had the extra things that she needed in her school. That's great, right? No one's going to begrudge the PTO for being very good at fundraising and helping out the school in that way. But the reality is that's not available in every school. We have 95 schools in Prince William County, and parents who aren't involved, who aren't able to give as much as those parents were in that community, they're not involved because they don't want to be. They're often involved because they can't. They don't have the time, they don't have the resources. Ultimately, I think there's some very big picture ideas that fit into what you're saying. But the reality is we need to expand these types of programs. We need to expand programs that are after school programs. It's not just for sports or karate or anything else that a lot of us put our children in after school, a lot of physical education type of stuff, but also for family types of programs. We need to expand those to allow families to get involved on their schedule, because the reality is if you're filling 2 full-time jobs and between 2 parents, sometimes 4 full-time jobs to raise your family, to live in an expensive community like Prince William County Schools, it's important that we do expand those programs. And the reality is that I don't know what all those programs should look like, but that's good, because I don't have all the answers, and I'm never going to tell you that I do. Don't tell my wife I said that, because I tell her that I have all the answers. But when it comes to the school board, I don't have all the answers, and we need each community to tell us, because every school is a community, we need each community to tell us where the needs are so the school board can react to those needs and fill them. So in communities with parents that aren't as involved because they have to work more, are going to have different needs than communities that don't have that problem. So I think it's important that school board keep its eye on the big picture so we can execute things at the most local level when it comes to helping families. And like I said, each community, each school has its own needs, and it's important that we meet those needs and absolutely work to get more parents involved, more grandparents involved, more stepdads, more stepmoms, more communities involved in our school system, because ultimately public education is a public good. So thank you.
Question to Ms. Sachdeva. And the question is to Mr. Ryan. You said in your speech that Prince William County is the 8th richest county in the country, but when it comes to the education, the schools have the largest number of students. After you are elected, how you are going to address this issue? I think this is one of the serious issues with large number of students in one classroom, living in the richest county in the country, and the lowest pay. So how are you going to address this issue? Thank you.
People want to talk about class size and how are we going to do it. The reality is that we can't snap our fingers and build a new school in a day or a month or a year. It doesn't happen that way. And unfortunately, we can't go back in time and build the schools along with permitting the homes at the same time, so we would have been caught up the whole time. That would have been ideal, but Rick didn't run 12 or 16 years ago, although otherwise we would have had that problem solved already. But the reality is that there is no easy answer, and there's ultimately debt service that our school system has to pay, and that we're reaching that limit. And that's where I was getting into a little bit, and when I was standing up and talking about how we need to work more closely with the Board of County Supervisors. As an example, and it's a small example, but it's to paint the picture. The Board of County Supervisors currently leases sports fields, land for sports fields to local sports groups, massive swaths of land, football field size parts of land, parking, infrastructure, the whole 9 yards, for $1 a year, right? These large pieces of land, and I'm a sports guy. I love sports. I'm not bashing sports. The whole idea is we need to work together with the Board of County Supervisors with the land that's theirs, so to speak, and I talked about that earlier about everyone kind of protecting their own stuff. We need to work to find places where we can put schools that may be currently under the purview of the Board of County Supervisors, but that'll work better for our school system and put schools. Because right now we're building schools in the most rural areas because that's the cheapest, most cost-efficient place to build a school, but that's not where the people are. And so we're having to make people train, get on buses for longer. A mother that I spoke to about a month ago talked to me about her son being on the bus for about 2 hours every day because she said hour 45 because he's the first one picked up and the last one dropped off in this big, long, convoluted way to get to school. So the reality is, and the number that I always heard was that we're the 14th wealthiest county in the country, although admittedly, when I go to different events, that number ranges from 8 to 7 to 12 to 14. We are the 14th wealthiest county in the country or around there. And we need to ultimately look at how we're funding our schools and how we build them. And I don't think we can do that without a proper relationship with the Board of County Supervisors, which I think is a very important reason that I think we can get a guy like Rick elected. Because from a local tax base perspective, and this comes down to businesses as well, Prince William County puts in the least amount of local money into our school system than any of the other counties in Northern Virginia. The closest county to us is Loudoun County when it comes to local money put into the schools, and they put in $3,400 more per student into their school system than we do of local money. And they also don't offer full-time kindergarten. So they don't offer a service that we offer that is an expensive service to offer, and they also put in $3,400 more per student than we do of local money. So it's important that we work with, because the school system doesn't have the land, and the school system doesn't even have the room within the wiggle room we have within debt service to build the schools, because that's how we build schools in Prince William County. We essentially put them on the credit card. And we don't have much more room on the credit card. So we can't continue to add to that without help from the Board of County Supervisors when it comes to funding, when it comes to land, because we're 10 to 12 schools short, but that's not just in new school buildings. We can add on to current school systems we have. We can make sure that our boundaries are drawn properly, and so we don't have empty schools sitting in empty classrooms, in certain parts of the county compared to others. So it's very much a web of information that needs to come together where both boards, and I can't stress this enough, both boards need to work better together in order to solve that problem. And Rick may want to add to this as well, if you don't mind.
Thank you so much. I mean, what Brian's absolutely right, and it is absolutely critical that the two boards work better together, something that has not been the case over the last decade or so. I want to talk a little bit about, we are at a point that, quite frankly, took a lot of time to get to and was the result of some bad decisions. And land use, which is the purview of the Board of County Supervisors, is an area where a lot of those questionable decisions were made. As the board has approved more and more housing developments over the last 12 years, and we've brought in more and more people, there hasn't been that commitment to making sure that we have enough investment in education, that we have enough schools to house, well, to educate those children that are going to come in. And it is absolutely critical that as we move forward, this is much more of a priority. It hasn't been a priority, but it absolutely needs to be. That's kind of the starting point in terms of really addressing this question. We start doing that, we start working more with the community, building our tax base. In terms of more businesses, we can start to, I don't want to say chip away, because I hope that we can be a little more effective than that, but it is going to take some time. But I know that Ryan and myself, and certainly other folks that are running with us for the school board and the Board of County Supervisors are committed to doing that.
Thank you so much to both of you guys. We have time for 2 more questions. We have Mr. Manjeet Singh, and after that, sir over there as well. We have a lot, right? We don't get it back over here, and that's a big problem. Can I get a yes from all our businessmen? Yes. Right? We pay taxes, and then Richmond takes it, and then some random state in Southern Virginia takes it. So how can we talk about that? Before we move on, I'm going to have him.
Thank you very much. While we have your attention over here, I'm Manjeet Taneja, and my question and my request and my comment is very much an extension of what Manpreet said. I believe that all of us have one goal in addition to many other goals. And one of our primary goals is how can we enhance awareness of a common US citizen so they become more aware of who we Sikhs are. And I think library is a wonderful idea, and I need your attention in this also. Hopefully you do become a clerk of the county. You know, you have lots of forms where you have columns, are you Hispanic or Asian, or please consider putting one more item over there, are you a Sikh? You know, all it takes is one small change.
That is S-I-K-H.
Thank you very much. And my second request to you is that, as you heard, we are the 5th largest religion. And we must be contributing, and we are only 1/3% in this country. But my guess is we must be contributing 5-6% in this country when it comes to all the numbers. So we will like to see that in our social study books, in our history books, in our other books, a small mention, maybe a page, very brief description, clear description of who Sikhs are, what Sikhism is, what Sikh values are, and as Dr. Amarjeet Singh said, how close they are to the values that were put forth by our forefathers over here in our Constitution. Thank you very much.
Hi, how you doing? Hey, Nate. Nate's going to be set up right over here at this table, up here. Anybody, once again, like I said, anybody that feels that the message today resonates with you, with your family, we all carry the burden of donating and putting together our hands to where our mouths are, putting together our own selves, our pockets, to go to those people who are going to help us. If you guys are satisfied with these answers, which I think that we are, then I think that now comes the time that we've listened, information sanu mil gayi hai, information assi process bhi kar liya, sanu samajh bhi pੈ rahi hai, te I think now comes the time कि उस information nu actions de vich badalਣ वास्ते, इन्हां nu empower ਕਰਨ वास्ते, to empower these guys here, we should now basically, in very, very simple words, open the pockets, open the books, so that these people can come into office. And I'm going to have Don answer that question. Nate will be ready at that table right there. Once Don answers those questions, Mr. over there has a question. Go ahead, Don.
So, which question did you want me to answer, Martin Simran?
Anyone at all.
Okay. Well, there was the one that you asked before about bringing our money back from Richmond. So I wanted to kind of touch on that because that's where I'll be working is in Richmond. I would say that the first thing you got to do is actually show up to work. I've mentioned before that Delegate Marshall doesn't show up to work, so that's a good start, but that's not all that it takes. I have asked those who have occupied offices here in Prince William County on both sides of the aisle what their relationship is, kind of the similar question to what Rick had asked earlier of Sharon Bulova. What's your relationship with those who are representing us down in Richmond? And I kind of got the same answer, which was, we don't have a relationship. And that's wrong. I see politics as art of the possible. And it's not an art of the possible if you're not actually having that conversation. And the conversation works in multiple directions. It works from the local level to the state level, and it works from the state level to the local level. It works across locals, as we've heard already, and it works across the aisle. I'm not there to put forward a radical social agenda like Delegate Marshall is. I'm there to get work done. And that's my focus, and that's what I intend to do in order to be able to bring our money back here from Richmond.
Thank you.
I just want to add a little bit in terms of what Don was talking about. Here in Northern Virginia, there is no question that we send more money to Richmond than we get back. We're not getting back the transportation dollars that we should be getting. We've lost the cost of competing funds for education that are critical to helping address the school funding challenges that we face. It's absolutely critical that we have leaders who are showing up to work, as Don mentioned, but who are willing to put in the time and effort to build the relationships with folks at the state level, at the federal level, at the local level, to get what we need. That's something that, quite frankly, hasn't happened over the last 12 years. It's something that I'm very committed to doing, whether it's with fellow Democrats or certainly with Republicans. And I think if we do that, we'll be much more successful.
Raising such a wonderful son. Well, gentlemen, Simran has really inspired me for two things. One is, I nodded my head when he said, will you vote? And yes, we will vote. Okay. And second, of course, is he has mentioned that we need to make it daswan. Remember that word when you come to the Punjabi community, that daswan towards a good cause. And I'm sure there are many here who are committed to that as well. But remember, gentlemen, we, as you mentioned a couple of times, and you mentioned a couple of times, and of course you did also, that there are some measures. And of course, we will give you the 90-day honeymoon period, but after that, we do need some performance. Okay? So, this is just a short-term window which you're going to get an opportunity. Because after 4 years, you'll be measured again.